Alright, I think this video is going to be actually a fun one because what I'm going to talk about here is whether you should stay or drop out of college and my thoughts on that and college in general. And so, to be honest with you, the question whether you should stay or drop out of college, it's not a yes and no question. It's not a black and white type of question, because here is the situation, right? I'm going to tell you a little bit of myself, a tiny bit of backstory. It's not going to be a full-blown backstory about how I dropped out of college, because I'm actually a college dropout, because I'm going to make a video on that a bit later. But you should, before we get into that, I just want to make an assumption that if you want to become a doctor, if you're still in college and you want to become either a doctor, a lawyer, perhaps an engineer, or whether you want to go somewhere where into a field that actually is looking for people with, a degree, say master's or a PhD, or I think it's the other one is a JD or something. That video isn't for you. If you actually need a degree to work in that field, that video is not for you. For everybody else who is actually thinking about dropping out of college, or whether the college is worth your time in 2021 in the first place, this video is for you, because you and I, we're probably in the same boat. At least I was in the same boat as you are currently, and so I think you're gonna like it. Anyways, where do I actually start? Because college for me, when I first applied to go to a university in the UK, I was even skeptical of going, but I knew I had to go to university in order to get out of the little small town that I lived in previously, which was called Morecambe. It's, if you guys don't know, it's in the north of England. It's a very blue collar working class town. You don't want to go there. It's a former prison colony, so I reckon all the people in their 60s, 70s at the moment living there, they're formerly prisoners, I think. It's a very, very run-down town, and so in order to get out of there, I had to go to college. I had to force myself to just get out of this place, because otherwise I'd be stuck there. And so, having said that, if you guys don't know, I'm also an orphan, so I had to do what I had to do in the first place. So having said that, I went to college near London, but for me, going to university, it was a stepping stone. Like, I didn't go there knowing that I want to get a degree, I want to do masters, I want to do PhD. I wasn't like that. All I wanted was to just get out of this place, go to university, and find my career, start my career doing something that I actually enjoyed, which involved marketing, advertising, because that's what I was pretty much into back in the day as well. I was reading a lot as well, so I kind of wanted to become a writer. That didn't work out, so I just ended up writing copy for my clients. Anyways, long story short, went to university, dropped out of my last year, because I found this whole sphere, this academia, this educational sphere, very political, and to the point that I wasn't even taught the craft that I was learning. I was doing English and American literature, so reading, writing, literature, Shakespeare, everything that has to do with literature in general. So I wasn't learning that. All I was pretty much being indoctrinated by the academic dogma, by the teachers, was the social justice kind of warrior side of things. It was hypocritical too. I'm just gonna say it was very hypocritical, and so I didn't like it. And in my last year, my fourth year, I actually went to probably like 4 classes or so. In my previous year, I still had, I pretty much ended up with almost with the first. So I was actually a decent student. I gotta take it back. I wasn't a good student, because I would always pretty much I would never shut up. Like I would always talk, and whenever there was something wrong that I heard from the teacher side, I would always argue. So that wasn't good. But I had good grades. Let's stick with that. And so I dropped out of my last year, and I went to maybe like 2, 3, a couple of classes or so. And I dropped out simply because I didn't like, not because I didn't like going there, but because it just didn't feel like, I was spending all this money to get a degree, but to be honest, I was just spending money to, pay the teacher's side. That's what students are actually doing right now. They're not learning anything, because everything you can actually learn online. So having said that, I realized that it wasn't worth my time, and I knew that I could just accomplish way more doing things on my own, which is what happened at the time as well. That was one of the reasons why I actually dropped out, because the things that I was doing on my own started getting a little bit more traction, and I couldn't do both. And so the first thing that I actually want to tell you is that you got to ask yourself a question whether going to university is directly correlated to not just your happiness and well-being, because that's very important, but that doesn't pay the rent. To how are you going to pay the rent? Because if you're getting in debt, and I get in the UK, it's not as harsh as it is in the US, where these guys, if you're watching this video and you're from the States, I truly I side with you guys, because you guys are getting fucked over by the by the elites, pretty much. Anyways, let's not digress. You gotta ask yourself whether going to college will help you in any way. Like, I get it, getting a degree, getting master's, getting a PhD, getting a well-paying job, it's sort of it has been the path to riches, so-called, since like the 50s, 60s, 70s, but it doesn't work anymore. And so it's just it's insane if you gotta fork out however many tens of thousands per year, per semester, even to pay for your freaking education, that you can get it for pretty much for free on Google. Either subtract certain costs like courses or whatever, but that's way more beneficial, right? And just getting a freaking piece of paper that doesn't even say who you are. It literally just says that this is what you've learned, but it doesn't mean anything whether you're going to be competent at your job, etc., etc. Here is actually a funny thing, because I was just speaking with one of my clients, Kevin, great guy, a new father, great person, and I asked him, dude, would you, I don't have a college degree, that, what did you think? What was what did you think, right? He was like, nothing. Didn't even bother me. It didn't even bother him. So it's just insane when you think about it, right? We tend to focus so much on the degree side of things, on that little piece of paper that doesn't even say who we are, right? And we just pay so much. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And so even the biggest companies in the market right now, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, even these guys have completely scrapped the requirement for degrees. I think it was 2 years ago that they did that. You don't even when you think of it, you don't even have to have a degree to go and work for Microsoft. For one of the biggest corporations, get a 6-figure salary, you don't even have to have a degree. You just need to be willing to put in the hours to be perhaps self-taught. But if it's coding, you can learn online. That's why I don't make this video for doctors, because if you want to become a doctor, then you kind of have to study on humans, and you're just not gonna learn it online. Same goes for lawyers, but the law changes every day, every year actually. So back in the next 5 years, it's all going to be automated anyway. People can just look it up, and if you're a lawyer, all you have to do, your price will be directly correlated to how well you can argue a case, nothing else. If you're selling your services by the hour, perhaps as a consultation fee or something, as a lawyer, then that side of things is going to be automated in the next 5 years, and you're just going to be out of business. So, and when it comes to engineers, you sort of need a degree if you're an engineer still. It's important, but you can just learn online. And so that's one of the things. Another thing is that you're kind of wasting your life by going to college. And I'm not going to say exactly who and when it happened, but a lot of the times when you go to college, what I mean by wasting your life is that you're just going to party and you're not actually going to learn a lot, because you're dropped into this, huge melting pot with a lot of people, and instead of actually trying to stay productive and do something, make something out of yourself. And I know I sound a little bit, I don't want to sound patronizing, so I apologize if I do, but if you just party all day, you don't want to become that guy who parties all day without actually making any progress, and that comes from experience myself, because that's what I did. There's a funny story I'm gonna tell you guys next time. I didn't sleep for 7 days for the entire week, and I pretty much partied all day. I worked as well, and then I partied in the evening. I lost a lot of weight during that time, a lot. It was not a healthy lifestyle. It was terrible. I sucked at everything during that time. I felt terrible just by existing. But yeah. And so you don't want to fall into that sort of category, because then it is very, very hard to get out of it. And it's you need to start by focusing on those little steps. And it's very, very hard if you're just partying every day, because your body has no time to reset itself and start again. So that's also another thing. But I guess it's, if you want to go to college, it's your choice. It's very personal, and I'm not gonna be this guy on YouTube telling you not to go if you really want to go, but just ask yourself whether it's actually worth it, because it's 2021. Paying for college is like it's pretty much an overpriced Zoom class at the moment. I mean, Netflix is way cheaper than paying for college at the moment, because everything's through Zoom, and there is no personal connection with the tutor as well. They usually don't care about you. They just don't, and because they're focused on their own research, and it's fair enough. Like, if they are actually focused on their own research, then they're just not really gonna care about you. But if they say they do, they're lying to you, and you're just being ripped off by the institution. That's just my opinion. So I guess if you really want to go to college, don't go, even if your parents are telling you to. Don't go to college just because your high school teachers are telling you to. Just think for yourself, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, think for yourself. Grab life by the balls, pretty much, and just believe in yourself, because there's so many things that you can actually accomplish, as opposed to just going to a class, listening to the same teacher giving the same lecture for the past 20 years, assuming that nothing has changed in the industry, even though things have changed like exponentially. Just don't listen to the crowd. Think for yourself.